we will introduce our speaker for the day. And so since I got to choose the speakers for August, I said, who do I like to listen to? And I went through my list, and one of my favorite speakers from way back when, in the 14 years that I chose speakers, was our speaker today, because he has so much depth. This man lives the walk, the talk. Not only is he a financial advisor, so he's got the money aspect of life figured out. He came from a very spiritual family, Coptic background, so he's got a spiritual base. And he and his wife own All About Herbs up in Wasilla, which is an amazing herb store. And so he's got the healing aspect of life figured out and wellness. And today, he's also got something that I find is one of the most amazing things to follow in universal law, the laws of harvest. So if you could help me welcome Mr. John Nelson.
That introduction, Dawn. I'll endeavor to live up to all of the things you praised me for.
You will.
It's humbling to be here because, being raised in a metaphysical environment with my dad, it's just a journey of life that I've really enjoyed. Born and raised here in Alaska. I have to tell you a little bit. My name is Thomas John Nelson. I go by my middle name of John, so my friends call me John. And I was a product of the '64 earthquake. Literally, the earthquake happened and 9 months later I was born. True story. And I don't think the earthquake was what conceived me. However, there was a lot of babies born in December of '64 here in Alaska because people were happy to be alive. Married, 3 children, 7 grandchildren, born and raised right here in Anchorage. My wife was born in Palmer Hospital. We met in the middle in Chugiak and raised our family of 30 years, became an empty nester, and moved out to the valley. I've facilitated the Last Frontier Food Group for over 5 years, and that's an organization of just collective people in the community that are concerned about food security. And this topic here is kind of timely to me because just this last week, I'm going to tell this quick story. This last week we had somebody reach out to us because of our facilitating of the Last Frontier Food Group, and she had a longtime prepper pass away, good friend of hers, a partner of hers, and he had started storing food from Y2K. Mm-hmm. He left it all behind. Of course, you can't take it with you when you leave this world, but he had over 250 buckets, 45-pound buckets of food. Wow. And we're going through it right now. We're helping her with the estate and finding a home for 250 buckets of food. So if you know anybody who's interested in prepped food that's potentially 30 years old, let me know. From beans, wheat. Wheat doesn't go bad. They found wheat in the great Egypt tombs and the pyramid. That'll still sprout. Mm-hmm. So this is probably pre-GMO food. Yeah. So it's kind of funny, but it's kind of true. But right now I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones, been in the financial services industry for over 25 years. Self-employed most of our adult life. My wife and I got married in '87. We started in business together in '86. And so we've been self-employed, and we still are today. We both own All About Herbs. My wife is there pretty much every day. And but I'm here to talk about food security. And how can you have food security when the powers that think they be are poisoning our food supply? When there are wars and rumors of wars and fertilizer shortages, the increasing food and fertilizer prices, wars on farmers, and I could go on and on. But don't take my word for it, just look in the news. The Iran conflict, Strait of Hormuz, China cutting all exports of fertilizer. These are things that are real going on today. Fertilizer shortages driving up the cost to our farmers who need fertilizer to grow their crops. All of this means higher prices of food in the grocery store and to the consumers, to us. The coming food collapse could come from almost any direction. Could be a meteor impact, could be an earthquake, could be the fertilizer crisis, or a diesel catastrophe, climate chaos, or elites land grab. So let's call it what it really is, food insecurity. How many of you heard that NSTAR and MEA may be having rolling blackouts this winter?
Yeah.
True story, go look it up. So right now, over 12% of Alaskans are food insecure. And I would argue that that number only represents those that go week to week and paycheck to paycheck to get their groceries. This number would significantly be greater if there's no food on the grocery store shelves. Alaska imports about 95% of everything we consume. And there's about 3 days of food on the shelves at the grocery stores. If the barge doesn't come in, Alaskans can starve. I was raised right here in Anchorage when the barge would come in every 30 days. And if we didn't catch the barge, we went without. So I remember 50-pound bags of food. I remember 50-pound bags of wheat and salt. And of course, those were, I think, 25 pounds. And, you know, the brown sugar and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And we used to store it. So I have a question for you. Do you have 30 days of food on your shelves?
Yeah.
In your freezers?
Maybe.
How about your neighbors? Do they?
Probably not.
So what can you do about it? Well, the solution to food insecurity is really quite simple. Don't be caught having to rely on the government, food banks, or your families or friends or neighbor for your food. The solution really is quite simple because it's becoming self-sufficient. And as you're self-sufficient, you can take care of you. You ever thought about it when you're flying on an airplane and the stewardess is up and she's giving instructions, you know, if the oxygen mask falls out, put yours on first before you put your neighbor's on. Because you can't help your neighbor if you're passed out. Same thing applies to food security. Before I get into being self-sufficient, let's discuss some of the principles I've learned and adopted in every aspect of my life. The walk I walk, the talk I talk, the businesses I do, the work that I do, and that's the laws of the harvest. I endeavor to apply the laws of the harvest to every aspect in my life as best as I can. And it's a tall task, and quite honestly, I fail at it a lot of times. But the fundamentals to becoming self-sufficient are the laws of the harvest. A couple of truisms I've adopted, especially living here in Alaska. Just because you believe something to be true doesn't mean it is true. But when you know something to be true, then you know it's true. Like, while summer may have just feels like it just arrived, winter is still coming. Being prepared or just getting prepared to take action, because if you do not take action, winter will still come. As will the effects of the shrinking food supplies, the attack on our global food production, and the disruptions of the global supply chain. Belief is the enemy of knowing. Just because you believe it to be true, you need to know it. We may not be at the end of the supply chain, but we can certainly see it from right where we're at. The bush. Now they're at the end of the supply chain. And if we starve, they starve. If we don't get our boats from Seattle and Washington, we go without. Go outside and look around. You'll see the truth. There is no lie in nature. You can no longer just pretend that everything will be okay. You can't just lay down and do nothing either. If you do, nature will consume you. Because nature is relentless, brutal, and unforgiving. And you must act, adapt, and keep moving forward. But no matter what, together as a community, we will get through whatever the world throws at us. I used to live by the saying of Alaska's 30 minutes outside of Anchorage. It used to be an hour outside of Anchorage. But, or it used to be 30 minutes out of Anchorage. Now it's about an hour out of Anchorage. But Alaska is brutal. We've got property up in Willow from my wife's grandparents' homestead that we were able to bring back into the family. But living in the bush, living off the grid, that is tough work. Absolutely tough. The laws of the harvest are like the laws of gravity. You don't break these laws, you just confirm them. And if tended to, your harvest will pay off dividends. If neglected, it'll pay back very little or nothing. But here is the laws of the harvest that can be applied to you in being self-sufficient. The law of sowing and reaping. What you sow, so shall you reap. If you plant good seeds, you'll get back good. If you do harm, then you will be paid back according to your actions. The law of sowing and reaping teaches that every action has consequences. What we plant in life, whether good or bad, we will eventually harvest, both physically and spiritually. The principle is clearly stated in Galatians 6, 7, and 8. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, this he will also reap. The law of sowing and reaping. Another way that this is described is sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap your character. Sow your character and reap your destiny. Your character determines your destiny. So sow good seeds. The law of delayed gratification. There is a time gap between sowing and reaping. In biblical context, the law of delayed gratification is best understood as the principle that true fulfillment and lasting blessings come not from immediate satisfaction, but from patient trust in God's timing and provision. Proverbs 11:25 warns that man who has a ready supply of food will not be satisfied, but the man who works will have plenty. Delayed gratification is tied to the diligence and waiting for God's harvest, not rushing to reap what is not yet sown. The law of abundance. The law of abundance in the Bible emphasizes God's promise to provide for his people, ensuring that they experience a life filled with blessings, both material and spiritually. 2 Corinthians 9:8, and God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. This emphasizes God's provision for every need, enabling believers to contribute positively to the world around them. In order to receive and appreciate the good things in life, you must first give. Give, and it'll be given unto you. The law of increasing returns. The parable of the talents, as Matthew 25 says, Jesus tells of a master who entrusts different amounts of money to his servants. The first two servants invest their talents, doubling them, while the third hides his. The master rewards the first two with more, showing faithful use of what we have leads to greater blessings. This illustrates that use it or lose it. If we don't invest, we lose the opportunity for growth. The parable of the sower. Those who hear the words and understand it produce a harvest of 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Luke says, give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over. This verse emphasizes the principles of generosity and reciprocity in giving. Jesus teaches that when we give freely, God blesses us abundantly, returning to us a measure that is pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing to symbolize fullness and abundance. And that's giving of our time and our talents. There is much more to the laws of the harvest than the 4 examples I just provided, because you may not be the person who harvests what you have sown. Laws of the seasons, the laws of delayed gratification, the laws of patience and perseverance, the laws of a positive mental attitude, and the laws of proportion. So I have a question for you. Do you know what this is?
Corn
What's
seed?
this?
Corn?
Corn kernel?
It's a kernel of corn. So, my question to you is, how many kernels of corn are in a corn kernel?
All of them.
Most people say this is a trick question. Oh, well, there's one. So if you plant corn, what do you get back?
Corn.
Corn.
Tomatoes, strawberries, apples. You get a corn stalk. And what grows on that corn stalk?
Ears of corn.
Ears of corn.
Years of corn.
And how many ears?
All of them.
Well,
Or not.
I've heard if your crop is knee-high by the 4th of July, you'll have a bumper crop. What grows in the ears of corn?
More corn kernels.
A corn cob. And what is on the corn cobs?
Seeds for corn.
Corn kernels. Any ideas how many corn kernels are on each corn cob?
1,200?
They all the same. I mean,
600 to 800. But that's on each cob. So how many kernels of corn are in a corn kernel?
All of them.
yeah, unlimited,
Well, it depends on what you do with that corn.
right? You can pop it.
If you put them in a bag with some butter and salt and pop them up and then eat them all, and you have nothing left. So you only have one kernel of corn that fed you. So the message here is quite simple. Don't eat all your seed. Save some for next year so you can plant them. If you planted each kernel of corn, what you will have is a field of corn. So back to my original question. I love your answer, by the way. All of them. That kernel of corn possesses all of the DNA of corn. And when you plant that, you have an infinite amount of corn potentially that can be produced, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing with abundance. And this is one of the core principles of the laws of the harvest. Because if you still have seed, you can feed people. But if you don't have seed, good luck feeding yourself. So the lessons from history can be quite valuable. Our forefathers applied the laws of the harvest in their lives. While it is said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme, and human nature remains the same. Do you ever consider why most people didn't starve during the Great Depression? Well, it's because of victory gardens. they knew how to grow food. Do you? During World War I and World War II, the U.S. government encouraged people to grow victory gardens in support of the war effort. The Victory Garden program in World War II proved iconic and has engaged the imagination of many even today. Those who seek to transform the nation's food system, one garden at a time. In fact, Rose Hayden Smith wrote in the book, Sowing the Seeds of Victory, that says just 12 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Secretary of Agriculture hosted a conference to discuss the formulated broad coordinated program to enlist interest and in guiding the national campaign to encourage home and community gardeners as a defense measure to reinforce the effort to reach the goal of over 5 million community gardens. That's pretty impressive. And that was to raise morale. That program was different than World War I because it shifted the emphasis of feeding our soldiers overseas to feeding a nation here in World War II. But before there can be victory, there must be work and toil and sacrifice. And every man and every woman and every child must be ready to take his place or her place to do that. So requires health. One cannot expect to be physically fit, mentally alert, and ready to take it unless a well-balanced diet, including plenty of fruits and vegetables, has provided that energy and fuel which is necessary to keep a top-notch condition at all times. That was from the then Department of Agriculture Secretary. So, start building your own victory garden today. Understanding God's laws and applying the laws of the harvest in our own life is the key to self-sufficiency. And the sooner you start, the sooner you will become self-sufficient. And yes, that was a picture of our old garden that we had off of Selden and Sarah's Way. It ended up becoming a superhighway right there. But when I planted that garden and then we sold that property, I didn't reap the rewards of what I sowed. The new owners had the opportunity to sow or to reap what I sowed. And that's a core principle of the laws of the harvest as well. Initially, food security to me meant getting a couple of big dogs to protect my food.
That we're going to eat them.
No, we don't live in
China or
or
third world
Vietnam or
countries,
someplace where they eat dogs. You know, I heard a war story about a military guy going to ask the chief about having dinner at the community dinner with the chief, and they couldn't speak each other's languages, and our soldier was like, "Man, this is great." He started eating it, and he was like, "Well, what is it? What kind of meat?" And nobody could understand him, and so he pointed down and he went, "Cluck, cluck, cluck, cluck." Chief went, "Oh no, bow wow, bow wow." But no, this white dog, that's Merlin. He made his brother Gandalf, another white dog, disappear. So Merlin's a more powerful magician. The whole story behind that, because I went literally bought 2 big dogs, or 2 puppies, and at 11 months, 95 pounds, I'm pulling them apart. They're trying to kill each other because of this thing called litter mate syndrome. That's a real thing, by the way. And I learned that lesson the hard way. But Merlin, he's faithful, and he was there to guard my food supply. And, been an avid beekeeper for many, many years. And then we considered getting chickens and goats because we lived in the land of milk and honey. And so the person we gave our other dog Gandalf to had a goat. They said, "Well, would you mind housing Sir Charleston?" Sir Charleston was the name of this goat. We nicknamed him Charlie Brown. Because I'm in Anchorage at my office and my phone buzzes, and I'm like, and I look at it and it says, "Your grill is at temperature." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so go into my security camera and I look, and here's Charlie Brown standing next to the grill. I'm like, oh no, turn that thing off. The picture of him is at eye level, and he's looking at me in my eyes from right outside the kitchen window, standing on the doghouse. And he would rub up against the patio door and open the patio door to our dining room. And then he learned to climb through the doggy door, and I'm like, this ain't happening.
Yeah.
We discovered real quickly that we are not goat people. So we stuck to gardening, but educating ourselves about our environment. That was actually my grandson. He's now 16 years old. Grow your food, forage your own food, identify local resources, and get others involved. There's an abundance of local resources right here in Alaska that's not available in most places. Clean water, plants, fish, game, other natural resources and sources of foods and supplies right here. In fact, my grandparents, they moved up here in 1948. My grandmother, she was pretty wise. She used to say, you know what, if the government went away yesterday, we wouldn't even know how irrelevant they are in our lives. Well, I think we should get back to that. What do you think?
Yeah, please.
Food preservation. That's a big part of food security as well. Because if the power goes out for any extended length of time, how long will your freezer stay cold? Yeah,
36 hours.
not long. Funny story about my dad, Ray. He was preparing for Y2K as well. And we went up there one day, and my wife was in the basement. He had his food prepped, and he was real proud of this food, and he showed us, and he's got this gallon jug of mayonnaise. And my wife looked at that, looked at Ray, and he said, Ray, what do you do with a gallon of mayonnaise? Well, in case Y2K, you know, and I want to be able to eat my sandwiches. And she goes, you do realize that if you open that jar, you got a refrigerator, and if the power's out, you ain't going to be able to keep it old, and then you're going to die. Ooh, maybe I should eat it. So mayonnaise didn't last that long. But I adopted a model years and years ago. If it's to be, it's up to me. If I want to get it done, it's up to me to get it done. But some people might say, well, but it's not the season of planting, but I think it's fishing season. Great. Or, yeah, but it's not the right season for planting, it's moose hunting season. Yeah, it might be, but winter is coming. It's too late, and I don't know how, or some other excuse. In reality, there is no excuses. You just need to have the right attitude to become self-sufficient. Besides, yeah, but is this little pessimist guy who lives in New York. He's not been raised in Alaska. And, you know, you don't need a garden bed to grow food in Alaska in the wintertime. It's a funny picture because this was last year, 1 week before moose hunting season, in my front yard. Mm-hmm. And that is a legal bull. I'm like, can you like come back? And he's walking towards my garden, and I'm like, no, wait, come back next week.
The shackle on him. Hobble him.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Put him in the dog pen. You know, you can still buy seeds today. Or you can learn to grow your own and harvest seeds for the next year's planting season. Those little cherry tomatoes, that's like, the plants I've got today are like 7th generation. Because I scoop out the seeds, put them on a piece of wax paper, let them dry, and plant them. The corn I showed earlier, that was corn I grew in Alaska, by the way. And it's never too early, and never too late to start planting either. This is actually Kenai River chives that I harvested from the Kenai River. And it comes up year after year after year in our garden. But taking control of your own food supply and learning to become self-sufficient. You can grow indoors. You can still harvest seed for next year's planting. And you can grow greens as sprouts right on your kitchen counter in the middle of winter. Just need a countertop, some water, mason jar, and some seeds. In fact, that was one of the things my wife loved about buying All About Herbs. Because she's like, I love that store. That's where I get all my sprouting supplies. You can learn how. You can have indoor grow lights. In fact, those are those little cherry tomatoes. They're delicious, by the way. So the best time to plant a garden is before you're hungry. Right? The next best time is now. It's like if you want a tree for shade in retirement, the best time to plant that tree is like 40 years ago. But next best time is today. But that's a pumpkin that pumpkins we grew in our greenhouse, and it makes a perfect pumpkin dinner with, you know, meat and rice, and it's delicious, by the way. So get back to the tradition of growing your own victory garden. Teach the next generation to grow too. How many of you have had parents that had gardens or grandparents that had gardens?
Definitely.
Did they teach you all of the principles?
I didn't listen.
Or we didn't listen, or we were too busy eating the strawberries as we were picking them, like my grandkids did last night. But teach the next generation. And there's a ton of resources. The Cooperative Extension Service has amazing plethora of resources that are available. You just have to go get them. And all the publications they have there are free. Well, we paid for them with our tax dollars. Or like this book. I brought it because, you know, I was curious about mushrooms in Alaska. And this is a field guide to mushrooms right here in Alaska. And, oh yeah, by the way, you can get this at All About Herbs.
Yay.
For a limited time.
Right.
So reaping the abundance of the laws of the harvest. There is a season for planting. There's a season for sowing. There's a season for weeding and watering and practicing of that delayed gratification. You may not be the person that reaps the benefits of what you've sown either. Oh, by the way, carrot tops. How many like pesto sauce? Yeah. Carrot top pesto sauce. It is the bomb. Absolutely the bomb. Carrot top pesto sauce. Yeah. And garlic. Growing your own garlic. Make sure you plant that in the fall, by the way. So there is a season for planting. We just don't know when it is. You know, some of the stuff you need to plant in the fall, so it comes up the next year. And no, none of my garlic this year came up, but that's my harvest from last year. Plant seeds that bear fruit. We must never underestimate the power of planting seeds, but having faith in the laws of the harvest, and then learning to apply them in your own life, in every aspect of your life. And step out on faith. And faith is the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things we have not yet seen. But you gotta have faith. And I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come in and share a little bit of passion that I have, and maybe it can help the next generation sometime. But with that, please, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions that they'd like to comments or anything?
Where is All About Herbs located in Wasilla?
Palmer-Wasilla Highway. So if
Okay.
you go out to the
Yep.
valley towards Wasilla, take a
Turn
right
right at
at
Fred Meyer.
Seward Meridian.
Oh,
Right
okay.
on Palmer-Wasilla Highway. It's about a mile on the left-hand side. Yeah.
I can't remember the lady's name, but I think she lives in the valley also. My naturopath or chiropractor, Dr. Sternquist, offered her as a class on fermenting too, which is amazing, the things that you can ferment for preservation, and really some interesting things. And sauerkraut, how easy it is to make.
Right?
Just incredibly easy. And you know, you spend like $10 or $12 for a nice jar of sauerkraut. Super easy to make. So I've started fermenting a few things like garlic and some other crudius vegetables. So
Well, speaking of fermenting and fermented garlic, some of that garlic that I grew, we fermented it, and I made some smoked salmon with fermented garlic.
Oh, yummy. That sounds so good.
It does.
Wow.
I brought some other stuff to just show you, because this is from 2020, so this is 6 years old, but it's got jalapenos and
Is it
light
salmon?
smoked salmon from the Copper River Red.
Yum.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shelf stable.
Right.
Brought a couple other things, dried jalapenos. I love those. Echinacea, if you like tea, dried echinacea tea. And of course, this is like, oh, yeah, got one more. Oh, no, I was gonna say, this says it's light smoked jalapenos, but it's really corn. It's an empty jar and I use lid. But this is my favorite.
What is it?
That's
Salmon
my
candy.
squaw candy.
Oh, yeah, I love
It's
that.
my version of smoked salmon.
Do you do that?
Oh, yeah.
You did that, huh?
Yeah. So, and yeah, but getting creative. Yeah, go ahead.
John, great talk, thank you.
Thank you.
And the same kind of prepper kind of thing, with your financial advisor hat on, what are your crystal ball theories about crypto versus cash? Is cash going to go away with some of the things that we read about?
I appreciate the question about that. Years ago, I was introduced to Bitcoin back at Bear Paw, and I want to say it was 2011-ish. And the more I talked to him, I'm like, you're talking about the mark of the beast. That was one of my initial impressions. Fast forward to 2016, 2017, and I'm not going to give anybody any financial advice here.
I was asking your opinion on the current
But
situation.
in 2016, 2017, I started looking into it because there was a lot of buzz about this Bitcoin thing, and I started looking into it because I wanted to know about the blockchain behind it. And that blockchain technology will change and revolutionize all contracts. Think about this. If you have a car that was a pre-owned car and you're in the market to buy a car, and you pull up the Carfax, and you find that on the blockchain, it shows that it was in a flood in Louisiana. Okay? But without that blockchain, you may not even know. But there's a history, the chain of history of the connection of where every part was made. They do that with plants now. I mean, think about, when you hear about the mad cow disease, they know where one mad cow is, but they can't find 20 million illegals, right? The blockchain, though, as a currency, right now there's a lot of speculation, and it's not something that can be, they've created an exchange-traded fund out of Bitcoin, so you can do some exchanges, but it's all paper. And it's so they can leverage it. With regards to coins or currency, think about this. Back to our food security. If the power goes out, how are you going to get your Bitcoin?
Right.
If you put it on a wallet and you can't access it on a computer, what good is the wallet? And I could go on down that path. There's so many what ifs that it's so speculative.
Right.
That's the biggest risk. To me, what's really valuable, I remember talking to one of my clients, and I asked him about what he thought about precious metals. And he says, I don't give any weight to precious metals, like gold and silver. And he said, oh, wait a minute, there is one I like. Brass loaded 22. I can eat with that. And I love that. And I figured I'd adopt it. But here's a really valuable commodity. Seeds.
Interesting.
You can eat seeds. You can barter seeds.
Yeah.
But try to take a bar of gold down to the grocery store and get a loaf of bread. And if I've got one loaf of bread and there's a whole bunch of people and I've only got the one loaf of bread and somebody offers me a bar of gold, I'm going to eat my bread. right? It might be good for exchanging for a large asset, but try to shave off a piece and get an egg or a dozen eggs.
Are there people in your circles that play around with seeds as if they're currency?
No,
That's an
me.
interesting concept. I like that.
But I share that with people because I think there's value there.
Yeah.
Because if I can grow seeds and I can keep reproducing seeds and I can eat from that, there's value there.
You're talking about coins. The smallest gold coin we have is smaller than a dime, but it's worth $500, and that's a tiny little piece of.
Thin thing.
And then you've got the gold-backed bucks that one thousandth of an ounce of gold is in the gold-backed buck.
Yeah.
That is a legal tender currency in some states. In fact, Alaska just passed a law on that. It's legal tender, and a lot of businesses will exchange that.
Yeah.
Going back to corn, so I just did a big travel through the Midwest, right? Several hours, and corn is very abundant right now, right? Fields are full of it. And I got to thinking, I asked a farmer friend of mine, I said, what do you guys do with the whole stalk? It's really not edible. Plus,
Silage.
I guess the farmers can't go out and they have to buy seeds from a particular place. Monsanto, yes. So all of the corn that's being grown is genetically modified, and then when they use it for feeder stock, I guess the stalks and things like that. But basically, a stalk it produces like one or a few ears of corn for all that land, all that water, all those resources. But it might cost. He was sharing with me like $300 to plant an acre or two, and the return is pretty solid. So it's just fascinating that our Midwest is full of corn and soybeans, and nutritionally wise, it doesn't have much value for us.
And you're absolutely correct, because they've modified the corn, the genetically modified produce that is insect repellent, disease repellent, doesn't produce, it won't sprout for producing another seed.
Another generation, no.
Right.
Yeah, but yet you have the food vaults in Norway that have heirloom seeds.
Seed vault, yeah.
And that's why I put seeds as a huge value. And some of the stuff that I have watched with the powers that think they be, if they control the food, they control the population. Well, I would rather them go talk to my dogs. Yeah, go ahead, come try to.
Well, maybe we should revisit that guy that has the 250 food source, whatever it was.
Sure, yeah.
Is that anything that we should consider?
Well, yeah, and I'm working on the flyer for the gal that's putting that on.
Yeah.
Probably next Friday, Saturday, it's all going to be opened up, and she's given the Last Frontier Food Group the ability. If I can get that flyer to you, I'll send it out and pass it around.
You have my email.
So it just so happens that I brought a bag full of frozen salmon
Yeah.
because my neighbor fishes for me, and I'm one person, I can't eat it all, and so I brought some to share.
That's amazing.
Very cool.
Thank you, Ann. You're doing the laws of harvest.
Well,
And give, and it shall be given
well,
unto you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just cleaned out the whole freezer and stacked everything, and this is this year's salmon that I brought you.
And where exactly is this salmon right now?
In my car, and I will bring it in. I wasn't going to put it in the basket.
Well, it's very abundant.
I could ask
I'll
you
go get
questions
it.
all the time.
Oh,
Don.
please do.
I saw you gave a picture of your dehydrated food and stuff. What are your thoughts on the freeze-dried food in those things? And
Yeah.
every so often I see Costco's got one for a little over $1,000. I think,
Yeah.
boy, that looks expensive.
Harvest Right,
Harvest
typical
Right.
brand, yeah.
You use them?
We connected with the Last Frontier Food Group, one of our affiliate members that, it's just a group of individuals, but one of them is the Alaska Food Company. They've got the largest freeze dryer in the entire state. And what did they say? Several thousand pounds it will dehydrate or freeze dry in one cycle. And we use that, the Christmas Friendship Dinner, which I sit on the board, we serve 2,500 meals at Christmas time on Christmas Day. So if you're not doing anything Christmas Day, come join us out there at the Menard Center. But last year we served about 2,500 people, and before they would organize a bunch of volunteers and they would peel potatoes, then boil the potatoes, and then make mashed potatoes. And we connected with the food group and we brought those two together, or the Alaska Food Company, and they freeze dried all of their potatoes in what they made the mashed potatoes and freeze dried it. So now all we have to do is add water, add hot water, and you've got instant mashed potatoes. And so there's a value in that, because the 25-year food buckets that we have today, that's the freeze-dried process. Now, you don't necessarily need to do that with navy beans or wheat, but you could make a meal and freeze-dry it.
Wow.
You just have to watch out for excess fat, okay, because fat doesn't freeze-dry too well. But there's tremendous value in freeze-drying food.
So I have another tip. I just found an app called Yucca,
Yeah.
and it will show you what the value of nutrition is in all the foods.
Or chemicals in
and-
things like the deodorant or.
So you just take a picture of it and it gives you a little report, but then it also gives suggestions of things that are much higher in value, like potato chips, of course, are like not very good, but they have some other chips that they recommend that actually have some value, food value, because we can eat all
Sweet
day.
potato chips or, kale chips.
We
Kale
can
chips,
eat all
yeah.
day, but if there's no nutrition in it, then what's the point?
I have used the Yucca app, and I have found that there are some inconsistencies even with that.
Yeah.
And you got to always double check AI anyways.
Well, yeah.
But with it's a good concept, but it might have sea salt in it, but listed as too high in sodium. And you go, wait a minute, what about the other 83 minerals that are in the sea salt?
Well, that is kind of a quirk in that thing, because we all need salt. It says too much sodium. Well, wait a minute.
75% of the planet's sodium, seawater.
So anyway,
Right.
I'm gonna go out and get my little bag full of salmon.
But thank you again. And
Let's give it a
welcome
hand.
you to come in.
Thank you, John. I always get so much from you, and I love that.